step back so I can see the screens through I don't have to keep looking through my bifocals or whatever. I can see them a little better. It'll still autofocus me right here, right? Am I where I'm? Okay, I won't move too far. So I got the anchor on my hip. So welcome back. We're still doing the life of Christ slowly. We might catch this 33 years, Chuck. I don't know. So anywho, I've given you resources before what we're using. Chuck's taught for the last 3 weeks, so I had to get back into it. I'm looking at one passage today. I got into this one, and I got digging farther than I probably should have. A passage that I've heard 1,000 times, and I got digging a little deeper than I should have or something. And anyways, that's where we're at. That's where we're at today. So we'll look at it, and we'll take what we get. So the anointing of Jesus' feet. Luke 7, verses 36 through 50 is where we're going to be. One of the Pharisees asked him to eat with him. He went into the Pharisee's house and reclined at table. And behold, a woman of the city, who was a sinner, when she learned that he was reclining at the table in the Pharisee's house, bought an alabaster flask of ointment. And standing behind him at his feet, weeping, she began to wet his feet with her tears and wiped them with her hair of her head and kissed his feet and anointed them with the ointment. So, like I said, we're picking up from Chuck. Jesus is teaching, he's preaching in Galilee is where he's at in his ministry. What are we saying? This is like the second year of his ministry, I think, is what we're at. So he's preaching in Galilee. This is a stop in Galilee at a Pharisee's house. The Pharisee's named Simon. We're going to see that in verse 40. That's his name. As many times as I've heard this, for some reason, I'm not really sure that I always ever caught that Simon was the Pharisee as Jesus talks to him. I, for some reason, thought he was talking to Simon Peter or something. I don't know why, but I just kind of caught that this time, that the Pharisee is named Simon. So why would a Pharisee invite Jesus into his home to eat with him? Chuck? To promote himself would be, that's a good answer right there. For those who were following Jesus, those who believe, you're right. It would give the Pharisee himself some kind of status to those people. So, especially, yeah. And maybe he sees it. Maybe he sees he might be the Son of God. And that would be. If you're entertained, if you already hold yourself this high and the Son of God eats in your house, you just elevate yourself. How about anything else? Somebody else got a reason why a Pharisee might invite Jesus into their house to eat? Maybe it's a trap? I don't know. To learn about him, that's the direction I kind of went with this and some of the notes. So, yeah, maybe to find out, to look a little deeper. And there's two splits on that, too, to find out about him. The Pharisees were always looking to catch him in something. So maybe it was a way to kind of trap him. But also could be like Nicodemus. He's looking, maybe he sees something that he hasn't made up his mind yet. So there's that possibility on that split to learn a little bit more, too. So, and I got down on there. Is it like Nicodemus? Was he influenced more by curiosity than hostility? Is he wishing to investigate the character and the claims of Jesus? That's a possibility. I'm going to tell you, it doesn't really pan out that way. It doesn't pan out like Nicodemus does. But maybe it started with that. Maybe, sometimes we do stuff and you don't know why. You don't exactly know why you did it. So, anyways, that's just a possibility. He doesn't seem hostile. Probably more curious than anything. Kaufman says that Simon is slumming. This is a word in Kaufman's commentary. No lie, he used the word slumming. This is something I would use, but I would just thought it was weird to find this in a Bible commentary, that he was slumming. Yep, that's what he was doing. So he's spending time at a lower social level. So the Pharisee, he really treats Jesus down at this level. So he drops himself down. Oh, I forgot to plug that one in. I got everything else except that one. Oh, well. So he drops himself down. He's slumming a little bit just to find out. He doesn't. That's what he's doing. It says, as part of his slumming, in McGarvey's notes, as part of his slumming, he carefully omitted all the ordinary courtesies and attentions which would have been paid to an honored guest. So we see this too. The Pharisee lowers himself to where he thinks Jesus is. Maybe he probably still holds himself above Jesus, but he lowers himself. And by doing this, he cuts out the standard stuff that you would have as you went into a Pharisee's home. He cuts that stuff out, or at least for Jesus. Why would Jesus accept Simon's invitation? The Pharisees have been harassed him already. It gets worse and worse. Why would Jesus accept this invitation? He ate with saints, he ate with sinners. Chuck? But that's really the truth, isn't it?
It really didn't matter.
Didn't know it mattered.
Yeah, it was an invitation, and he was a leader in the community. It would have been an insult to decline it. And Christ wouldn't do that.
Yeah, it would have been an insult to decline it because the Pharisee society would have been one of the leaders in the community. Like I said, he ate with sinners in general. So no different here. And Christ, knowing hearts, he would know. And it'd be an opportunity to teach, an opportunity to, I'm sure he knew it was more than just a good lamb and olive meal or something, So it's probably why he did that. Verse 36 says they reclined at a table to eat. And I know we've heard it some 100 times. The old Jewish method, I found it was unique. The old Jewish method was they would sit cross-legged to eat, whether on a floor or on a, I don't even know how to say this word, divan. Anybody know how to say that word? No? Me neither. Okay, so we're all on the same word. It's a little couch, kind of. Anybody got a weird name for couches? Growing up, my grandmother, in the sitting room that nobody used, that living room, she had a Davenport. And I'm assuming that a Davenport was a brand of couch, but that's what she called it, was a Davenport. So, anybody else got any other weird names? Lanai. That's like for a porch? Or is that a couch? Porch. Yeah. Grant dated a girl that they had a lanai. It's like, come on and join us on the lanai. It was a porch. It's like, who knew? So, and if you read British literature, they have chases, which were kind of a laying down couch. Yeah. So, anywho. So they kind of sat on that. They sat cross-legged, and that's how they eat. I would assume they had a low table, sat on the floor. Anybody ever eat at a restaurant like that or something like somewhere? Susan has. She's been in Asia. That's what it is. Anytime I've eaten that way at a couple of Asian restaurants where you basically sit on pillows or something. It's a unique thing. So that's how they used to do it. The Persians, the Greeks, and the Romans, they did this reclining thing. It seems that the Jews picked it up through exile, and that's when they used after the exile as the reclining thing, where they reclined to eat. So just a little history on that for whatever it's worth, about this much. But anyways. So the lady is described as a woman of the city who was a sinner. Question I always ask, why was she in this guy's house? Why was she there? What was she doing?
To the hopeless, the poor. Because in their society, if you were poor, obviously you weren't blessed by God, you must have done something wrong. If you were rich, you were blessed by God, you must be doing everything right. She knew he was talking to her when he had his sermons that he had done. And she knew that he was a real deal in her mind.
I like that. Yeah, she's there. The rich thought they were blessed, and the poor thought they were condemned, basically. But she was there to hear the hope, for that hope message. I like that, because that shows really more in the story that she's there for that hope. You see her response basically based on that. But the Pharisee, he seems to know who she is. He seems to know about her. I don't know,
Why?
Don't you? Don't you? Really? It points to her being a prostitute. It's not really kind of. It points to her being that. He knows she is. He's identified her. He identified what she does, and she's in his house, and it's just weird. But anyway, I don't know if it's weird. It's just maybe that's a key to his own thing. As you see more about his relationship with her and stuff, I think that's part of it. He knows who she is. And she knows what's going on. Like Chuck said, she knows there's a dinner. She knows Christ is there. It was a medieval tradition that this woman was Mary Magdalene, but there's no reliable source for that. So if that's something you believe, I think I'd drop that, okay? I found out in the notes. I never thought she'd be Mary Magdalene, but apparently that's still taught in certain places. Mary Magdalene actually happens in a few verses later. Luke 8, she shows up there and has demons. She's demon-possessed. This is not her. So I just thought I'd bring that out, so in case somebody thought that was it. You can do more research, but that's where she comes in the picture. So she had an alabaster flask of ointment. This is McGarvey's notes. I just copied them. It said Orientals, people of that area, are very fond of ointments and use them upon their face and hair with profusion. They're scented with sweet-smelling vegetable essence, especially that extracted from myrtle. Originally, the small vases, jars, or broad-mouthed bottles in which the ointment was stored were carved from alabaster, a variety of gypsum, white, semi-transparent, and costly. Afterwards, other materials were used, but the name alabaster was still applied to such cruces. Some versions use the word cruce. So anyways, she's got this alabaster jar, which may not be alabaster. Like I said, the name kind of stuck. I was talking to Steve this morning. Like tin can, who uses the word tin can? When was the last time you saw a tin can? You know, they don't make cans out of tin anymore. And it's still, things come in tins. Little mints and stuff come in tins, but they're not tin. They're not even steel, are they? Well, some of them are probably steel. But, you know, things have changed over time. But this term still stuck, that they were still calling it alabaster. And I want to contrast this with another story which is very similar, and I think the two of them get confused often. In John 12 verses 1 through 3, 6 days before the Passover, Jesus therefore came to Bethany, where Lazarus was, whom Jesus had raised from the dead. So they gave a dinner for him there. Martha served, and Lazarus was one of those reclining with him at the table. Mary therefore took a pound of expensive ointment made from pure nard, and anointed the feet of Jesus, and wiped his feet with her hair. And the house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. Are these two different stories? They're two different stories. And that's why I wanted to bring it out. So there's two different times that Jesus gets his feet washed and wiped with a woman's hair. In the story in John, which happens much later in the whole deal, it's Mary that does it. Mary, the sister of Martha, the sister of Lazarus. And she uses an expensive ointment made out of pure nard. It's in a place called Bethany. Where we're at here, we're in Galilee. I think they say that probably in the city of Nain, N-A-I-N, is where the story that we're working with. And it's a different woman, a different event entirely. So it's easy to mix the two up. I just bring it up just for that point. McGarvey points out that the difference between the meals and the difference between Mary and the woman of the city, the difference would also point to the use of a cheaper flask and a cheaper ointment. This ointment that we're using in this Luke 7 is probably not pure nard. This woman's not rich. She's the life of sin, the job that she has, she's getting by. And it's probably more the vegetable essence, the vegetable and flowers that she has. What's it matter? It probably doesn't. But I wouldn't look at her as being a rich person with doing something rich, but she does what she has available to her. Did she set out to wash Jesus' feet? Did she come in there to wash his feet? Doesn't seem to be that case, does it? It says, 37, behold, a woman of the city was a sinner when she learned that he was reclining at a table at the Pharisee's house, brought an alabaster flask of ointment, and standing behind him at his feet, weeping, she began to wet his feet with her tears, and wiped them with the hair of her head, and kissed his feet, and anointed them with ointment. It doesn't seem like she really just set out to come in there and wash his feet. She came out in there to see him, hear him, standing close enough. Pick my next question. She starts to cry. She starts to weep. Why would she weep? She knows who he is. You're right. As a sinner, she sees it. like Chuck said, she sees that hope. She starts feeling the gravity of her own life. Yeah, maybe the hope right there, the tears come. The love that's there for her, that he has for her. He's like I said, she's probably listened to him before. That's not a love she has otherwise. So, yeah, she's crying. Have you ever cried on someone? Had someone cry on you? What kind of feelings go with that? Sadness. If you're married, you've probably had somebody cry on you. It's happened. It could be happiness too. Usually if you're holding them tight and they're crying on you, you're going to get wet, flat out. Right? You ever had a shirt just soaked because somebody cried on you? And if it's a woman, you're going to get makeup and tears on you, which is okay. So, that's part of the deal. And it's just part of the deal. When I've had that happen, when Camille's friends or even Camille, I usually get, sorry. I'm sorry I soaked you with the tears. I'm sorry I put you through this. I'm sorry for the makeup that may or may not ever come out of that shirt. That's kind of the feeling that usually comes with that is, although they're sad and you're there to comfort them, there's usually I can't believe I've made a mess here, for whatever it is. And, you go with it. It just is what it is. You can almost see her doing that the same way. How would she have felt if she's crying, like I said, tears and makeup on my shirt? She identifies Jesus. She knows who he is, but she's crying on his feet. How would she have felt as her tears are just enough to get his feet, not just damp, wet? Would she want to, how would she feel? Would she want to clean that up? Would she want to apologize? Would she want to, a little bit of everything, probably. So what'd she do to correct it? That's it?
She approached the least desirable part of his body. You
Yeah,
have people crying on your shoulder, your chest, or whatever it is. That's an intimate feeling. She didn't feel like she could approach him at that level. She went to the stinky, calloused part of his body that would be least desirable, and that's all she felt she could approach.
It's all she felt worthy of approaching was his feet. Yeah. Susan?
Well, I don't know if anybody else has had this experience, but when I was growing up, we used to get on our knees and pray at night. We'd say our prayers. And as you get older, you can, when you have something very serious, sometimes you take that position and you are crying so hard for what you're asking for, and you're bowing yourself before God. And I think that's why his feet got wet, is because she was totally humble, bowing, crying at his feet with her head down. And it was just pouring out, emotions just pouring out.
I like that. I'm with you. It's just that much, and like I said, she could be bowing down in prayer. The seriousness with what was in her heart bring you to tears. Myself, and I know other guys, as you pray here, sometimes the prayers of what we're praying for will bring tears to our eyes. But, it's just that serious. I know teaching in class, there's once in a while, there's a subject that it hits you, and it's just definitely studying. I think I've put together several PowerPoints in tears, and that's where she's at. She understands that gravity. She understands, like you said, she's praying. It's just, she can't believe she's there. And she can't approach his face. She can't hold his hand. Put her face into his cloak. It's his feet. Is all the more worthy that she feels that she is. So what's she do after she realizes she's got his feet soaked with her tears? What does she do? She wants to dry them off. She wants to fix it in some form or fashion. So what's she do? She wipes them off with her hair. Never had that happen. Maybe my wife just doesn't love me enough. nor should she. But no, that's what she had. How about that? That's what she had. She realizes, she knows who he is. She's that serious about it. She can't believe she's got her tears on him. Her hair's long enough. She's already there. That's what she uses. She uses her own hair. McGarvey says, 1 Corinthians 11:15, she said, she thus placed her glory at his feet, after which she put the ointment upon him. 11:15 in 1 Corinthians says, but if a woman has long hair, it is her glory. So I like that, with a lot of context, but it's still, she did what she had. She didn't just leave it. She didn't go looking for a box of rags or something. She used her glory, her hair. She wiped it with the ointment that she had. So moving on to verse 39. Now when the Pharisee who had invited him saw this, he said to himself, if this man were a prophet, he would have known who and what sort of woman that is touching her. If this man were a prophet, he would have known who and what sort of woman this is who is touching him, for she is a sinner. Could you put more pronouns in one sentence? And Jesus answering said to him, Simon, I have something to say to you. And he answered, say it, teacher. So the Pharisee, Simon, invited Jesus basically to investigate him, to find out more about him, whether it's to trick him, whether it's to find out for his own good. Probably more so from the Pharisee angle. Are the claims real? Looking for the guy to mess up. How do you think Simon felt about seeing Jesus not recognize him for who he was? At least from Simon's viewpoint, he thinks Jesus doesn't know who this woman is. If you knew who she was, if you knew what kind of woman she is, you'd never let her touch it. Simon thinks Jesus is a fake, but we also know Simon's a fake. So, Simon's like, this guy, he's not a prophet. He's not the Son of God. He's none of this. He's letting a prostitute touch him. Her tears go all over him. She's wiping his feet with her hair. If he knew, which he should, this is one of the signs of the Son of God, is he can discern hearts. He should be able to recognize it. We know he does. That's really the key. What effect would the touch of a woman have on the Pharisee? If she had done this to Simon, Susan, did you say something? No, I thought you did. Maybe you just laughed. Okay, I'll take that too. If she'd done this to the Pharisee, what effect would it have had on the Pharisee? If she'd gone up, cried on his feet, wiped him with her hair, rubbed him with ointment. You don't think he would have enjoyed it? Not in public anyways, right? So, yeah. Anything else? He would have had to throw her out. Yeah. It would have been unclean, unclean, unclean. The Pharisees were big on making sure they were clean, that they didn't touch dead bodies, that they didn't eat with Gentiles, that they didn't this, and that. He would himself. Yeah, the meat had to be clean. It couldn't be pork and it couldn't be lobster and stuff like that. So everything, and the Pharisees were big rule keepers, This wouldn't have happened. Throw her out might have been minor compared to what could have happened right there. So it's a big contrast between how Jesus handled it and how the Pharisee would have. The Pharisees, I read, forbade women to stand nearer to them than 4 cubits. So 4 cubits. That's some social distancing right there. Anyways, 4 cubits is as close as women were allowed to get to the Pharisees. So, as Jesus responds that he has something to say to Simon, as Jesus responds that he has something to say to Simon, how do you take Simon's response? Say it, teacher. Because Jesus says, Simon, I got something I need to say to you. Simon says, say it, teacher. How do you take that? What do you think that means? Yeah, he's definitely sarcastic. You know, the Pharisee himself is like, you are fake, you're nothing. But yeah, like you said, he's sarcastic. Well, just say it, teacher. You're going to teach me. You know everything. Sarcasm. Chuck? That could be too. That he expects Jesus to apologize to him. You know, you almost don't expect to see sarcasm in the Bible. When you see it like this, it could be sarcasm. We've seen it there in 1 Corinthians as we studied it on Wednesday night. There's some stuff that Paul says to the Corinthians church. Basically, you think you're so big, and he acts like they're as big as they think they are. So it's kind of weird to see some of that stuff. You don't expect it, but it's there. I'm still pushing for the sarcasm punctuation mark. That way you can tell, on Facebook or something. Somebody puts the sarcasm punctuation mark. We all know it's sarcasm. Move on. Verse 41 and 42. A certain moneylender had two debtors. One owed 500 denarii, the other 50. When they could not pay, he canceled the debt of both. Which of them will love him more? So Jesus breaks out into a parable. He says, Simon, I got something to tell you. So here it is. I get this awesome story about somebody running a bank, okay? This is just exactly what Simon wanted to hear. He's like, is this guy serious? He's got a story about this. So, how much is a denarius worth? Denarii, 2 eyes, is plural of denarius. What's a denarius worth? Day's wage. So day's wage as a laborer. So you can take it as that. Whatever you can make, as you went out here as a worker, construction worker, or something, a plumber, AC guy. I don't know about AC guy. I think they're making this much money. But what's that? Plumbers make some serious money. A copier repairman, that guy's making some bucks too for what they do. But anyways, the standard laborer guy, you're working for somebody digging holes and getting dirty. Whatever that person makes in a day, that's what a denarius would be worth. If you want to take it as a minimum wage, if you pull the $15 that people are pushing for, a day's wage, 120 bucks. So a denarius would be worth $120 today, if that's how we paid people. Here's your denarius. So anyways, not a big deal. So one person owes 50 denarii, one owes 500. The person owes 50, he owes about 2 months' pay. If he worked straight for 2 months and didn't spend a dime, somebody else fed him, he didn't have to pay rent, didn't have to put gas in his chariot, he could pay that debt off with 2 months' work. The other guy owes about 2 years' pay. He'd have to work 2 years straight to pay off this debt. They're both sizable debts. Don't miss that. It's not like you just pull it out of your pocket and it's done. They're both sizable debts. But anyways, both debts were canceled. Which would love the moneylender more? Take it yourself. If you got a mortgage or rent to pay, somebody says, don't pay rent for 2 months. Let's just do it that way. Don't pay rent for 2 months. Don't pay rent for the next 2 years. Which of these people would love him more? It should be both, right? It should be both. And that's a good answer. It should be both. Yeah. Yeah, it's about money to him. So the person that owed 50, the person owed 500. This person owes 10 times what the other one owes. So even love would be, like you say, factor into that. Well, if love equals repayment, this guy's got to love 10 times more than this person. So yeah, but it's all about money. And like I said, the Pharisees went down to the beans and grains of rice with their donations and stuff. It's all about that, the position and stuff. In this parable, the moneylender, as parables are, things stand for something. So who or what does the moneylender represent? What do the debts represent? What does the forgiven debt represent? It's not a wild guess on this one. I know everybody here is pretty much in tune with this, but God's the moneylender. Sins, Forgiven sins. That's it. Yeah, that's it. So that's it's about as simple as that. But Simon doesn't see that. Simon the Pharisee doesn't see it, which is kind of, they're looking right at it and don't see it. It's an economics lesson, yeah. Do like my kids, take out the economics in high school, it's like, it's killing me, Dad. I can't believe this stuff, you know? It's like, yeah, that's probably Simon, same thing. He turned it off, you know? Wall Street Journal just comes to the house so he looks cool. He never reads it. That's all it is. So, but it is. It's more than that. It's God, it's sin, it's forgiven sin. Is the debt of sin repayable? Can you pay the price of sin? Yes. We can't repay it. Yeah. We can't. The wages of sin, the cost of sin, what you earn with sin is death. And it doesn't wash it away. It doesn't erase it. It doesn't forgive it. That's the cost of it. So you're right. Jesus' blood, you said a little while ago, that's the only way sin is repayable. Is it possible to turn down the debt forgiveness? If you were to be forgiven 50 or 500, can you turn it down? They turn down stuff worth way more. Like I said, it's not just an economics problem. You're not just turning down 2 months' pay or 2 years' pay, which sounds like a lot of money. You're turning down, if you turn down this forgiveness, it's not just a debt, it's that forgiveness of sin. You're turning down eternity in heaven, eternity with God, and you can turn it down. You can turn that down. And I think Chuck's got the point too. A lot of people don't know what it's worth, do they? Do they think it's just worth 2 months' salary? 2 years' salary? Pocket change? Simon answered, "The one, I suppose, for whom canceled a larger debt." He said to him, "You have judged rightly." So in this parable, woman was represented by the big debtor and the Pharisee by the small debtor. How much would she love Jesus for forgiving for her sin, and how much would he love Jesus for forgiving his sin? So I'll throw 2 questions in there the same. So the 2 debtors represent the sinful woman and Simon the Pharisee. How much would she love Jesus for forgiving her sin? Enough to cry on his feet, enough to wipe his hair with her feet, wipe his feet with her hair. Not the other way around. That would just really not be proper, would it? So that's how much. How about him? The offer's there. The story tells you, forgive your sin just the same as hers. Does he take it? He doesn't take it. He doesn't love him. He's not looking for that. He's not looking for forgiveness. Quite honestly, probably doesn't even think he needs forgiven. He's not at that point. Does Simon pronounce his own judgment with his answer? I suppose the one who had larger debt canceled, she loves you more. I don't love you at all. Seals his own judgment right there. From this point, the words of Jesus take up the conduct of Simon, which we should hear pictured ourselves. We must imagine the guests arriving. Simon receives them with all courtesy and embraces each in turn. Slaves ready to wash the dust from the road off their sandaled feet, pour sweet olive oil over their heads to soften the parched skin. A whole bunch of verses that you can look at of how people were treated as guests. But there is one of the guests not thus treated. He's but a poor man, invited as an act of condescending patronage. No kiss is offered to him. No slave waits upon him. Of course, a mechanic cannot need the luxuries others are accustomed to. I have no idea what that last line means. It sounds like something from The Great Gatsby. But anyways, this is McGarvey's notes. And it seems almost out of place, but not so much. But it's kind of a reminder. As this dinner happens, and the guests are coming in, this is the standard way guests are treated, with all courtesy. They hug, they kiss each other on the cheek. Anybody have friends that kiss them on the cheek when you meet them? Really? We ought to start that. No. I had a friend in college. That's how she did it. She was from New York City. I know she was a Jew. I think her dad came from Austria and was probably, anyways. That's how she greeted us. When she would greet her friends, she would greet us by kissing you on the cheek. That's how it was. She's about this tall, whatever. That's just how it is. And you see it. Maybe people are really close. I mean, come on. Can you get past grandma without that? No. Okay. So this is how they greeted each other. The slaves were there to wash the dust off their feet, to put olive oil over their heads to soften the parched skin. This is how guests were received. And as his note said, not Jesus. He wasn't treated that way. Verse 44, then turning toward the woman, he said to Simon, you see this woman? I entered your house. You gave me no water for my feet. She has wet my feet with her tears and wiped them with her hair. You gave me no kiss, but from the time I came in, she has not ceased to kiss my feet. You did not anoint my head with oil. She has anointed my feet with ointment. Simon the Pharisee didn't treat Jesus as an honored guest. This is really where it goes to. Do you think it was intentional? Do you think it was intentional? And then do you think that Simon thought Jesus wouldn't notice it? Yeah, he definitely didn't think Jesus was worth it. You're not worthy of my honored guest. You're worthy of this treatment right here. You're welcome to come eat. Yeah. Didn't think he's worth it. Does he think Jesus won't notice?
He cared whether or not Jesus noticed or not.
My house, I treat people the way I want to treat people. You're right. Didn't care. You think the other guests were afforded the traditional courtesies. And that McGarvey's notes seem to think that they got treated one way and Jesus got treated another. Do you think he just slummed it the whole night? Shh, guys, we're just going to cut out all that stuff. We're just going to... It's hard to tell. But how do you feel? Everybody else is getting that. It's like,
That's why McGarvey's commentary used that last statement. A mechanic, he's just a mechanic. He doesn't need the same things that others expect. I'm sure the woman also didn't get her feet washed and anything else. So everybody that came in obviously was treated what the Pharisee, what he thought they deserved.
Yeah, I like that. Those guys were, like I said, the mechanic. And I guess even McCarvey's commentary is older, right? Yeah, how about just say old, to be honest? It's not old. I mean, there's some stuff that's old. But you take cars. Most of us drove ourselves here, or we drove with a family member. There was a day when you would bring your mechanic with you. There was a day when, as the carriage came in here, the driver would be there, the animal tenderer. Are they part of the entourage? These are just, that's who they are. Would you, hey, my Uber driver's going to stay for dinner. Can you treat him the same way as everybody else? It's a little different. And that's really what they treated him. And that's probably right. Like the mechanic, they forget what time frame that's written in and even some of this stuff. So no, they weren't treated as regular people. They were treated as the bottom. But how did the woman of the city treat Jesus? Jesus doesn't get water for his feet. She washes his feet with her own tears. He doesn't get a kiss from the Pharisee. She kisses his feet. She goes to the extreme. Like Chuck said, the worst about as bad as you could get. Go kiss on his feet. He doesn't get oil on his head for the parched skin and stuff like that. They sell beard oil too. Same kind of thing. You see that. He didn't get that. She brought her own. She's got that to rub on him. Did she love him more? She loved him more. And there's the key. She loved him more. Verse 47, therefore I tell you, her sins, which are many, are forgiven, for she loved much. But he who is forgiven little, loves little. Did her love cause her forgiveness? Or did she love because she was forgiven? She loved because she was forgiven. Same thing. Are we forgiven because we love God, or do we love God because we're forgiven? We love him because we're forgiven. We love because he first loved us. How do you think Simon felt when he heard this? All of a sudden the roles switch, right? All of a sudden he's on the bottom. All of a sudden maybe he sees.
Was a red light.
Yeah, that was a lie. Yeah, you just claimed your God. You just claimed your God. You're right. In verse 48, and he said to her, your sins are forgiven. Then those who were at the table with him began to say amongst themselves, who is this who even forgives sins? This is, like you say, this is a red light of what red lights. They're all, they're clutching the pearls, they're waving their hair, they're ripping their clothes. He is just claimed he was God. And they're on him. So who says this? For the hard of hearing, verse 50, he said to the woman a second time, your faith has saved you. Go in peace. Make sure they all hear it. What did he say? Who does he think he is? That's who he is. She knew who he was. He knew who he was. I still contend they knew who he was. When you're bigger than God, man. Jesus attributes her forgiveness to her faith. Can we draw the conclusion that sin produces love? Or that much sin produces much love? That's not true. I don't want you to ever think that. But she has love through her sin. And we end with this, McGarvey's statement. The blessing which we seek is not proportioned to the quantity of sin, but is proportioned to the quantity of sinful sense which we feel. We all have sin enough to destroy our souls. Many of us fail to love God as we should through an insufficient sense of sinfulness. I think this is the key. It's not the sins in our life. It's that sense when we understand how sinful that is. That's the key. So I'll leave you with that. One of us will pick up next week, hopefully with more than one passage. But anyways, stick around. Chuck's got a good sermon today. So he's got a purple shirt and purple background on his sermon. So thanks for hanging around. Thanks for working with me.
Sing the wondrous